Hello everyone, and today we are taking a look at the Xbox Series X in developer mode, running emulators, and this is the Xbox Series X's party piece. This really puts it over the PS5 when it comes to game compatibility, because the Series X is a beast of an emulation machine. It really is a fantastic showcase of just what the console can do. So how do you access the emulators? Well, you have to put the console into developer mode. It can be done now with the web browser. There was a recent Google, not Chromium or Edge as it's called, update, and you can play the games via the cloud in a web browser without a modified Xbox. But we're not going to cover that in this video. We're going to take a look at the Xbox Series X in developer mode. So developer mode is available to anyone. You can download it as an app. You do have to register your account for developer mode. It does cost money. It's $20 in the US, £14 in the UK. But it is a small price to pay to unlock basically generations of consoles. 35 years worth of console games can now be run on your Xbox Series X now. And it does turn it into the ultimate greatest hits console now. As you can see here, we are running Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader on the Dolphin core in Retroarch, and it's running at 4K. And it, despite a little bit of slowdown, it runs really well. It's playable, considering this game was considered once impossible on the PC. This is one of the hardest games to run. You saw it, I did a previous video we did it with the Microsoft Surface, and it was quite impressive that it ran at like 9 FPS. But here, yeah, 4K. Out of this, and yeah, you're getting 60 FPS. Should point out Gamecube emulation is really good. Again, Dolphin has been around, for the last 15 years now, Dolphin, and it is very, very high rate of compatibility. But this game was once considered impossible. But yeah, it's a pretty good game now, pretty decent performance out of Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader. Factor 5 were geniuses when it came to the GameCube development. They did things that no one else really ever could, and I think this is fantastic. There's a bit of slowdown when you change camera views. You get a little bit of slowdown, so it's not perfect, but it is playable. Certainly playable at 4K. If you don't want a bit less slowdown, you can drop the resolution down. If you're playing on the Series S, I would probably not go beyond 1080p because it just has a less capable GPU. But with that 12 teraflop RDNA 2 GPU, pretty nice actually. The performance is pretty good out of Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader. And this wouldn't be an emulation video without taking a look at Timesplitters. In particular, Timesplitters Future Perfect. Again, this is running on the Dolphin core, and it is running at 4K. And it runs really well. You can see by the frame rate there, it is a bit of a mixed kind of frame rate. It kind of does hit 60, but it's just the way it's being reported in RetroArch there. Again, it's excellent, the frame rate here, and it is playable. There is a few issues with textures kind of flickering, but other than that, it's perfectly playable, and it's great to see this being playable again. Here, you can play all the other Timesplitters games. Timesplitters 1 will run on the PS2 emulator. We'll look at that later in the video. And also, Timesplitters 2 will run in Dolphin as well as Future Perfect. So again, really good performance. Again, GameCube is excellent. The support. I did try a few other games. I tried a few Nintendo games, but we can't show footage for them. Mario Sunshine ran fine. Luigi's Mansion, Mario Kart Double Dash, Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker. They all ran pretty fine. Again, compatibility in Dolphin is really good here. It has really nice compatibility. And again, Dolphin has been around a long time, so it is very compatible. I should point out you can play GameCube on the Nvidia Shield, and I'm sure you could do it on the Nintendo Switch as well. There's certainly, you feel like the Nintendo Switch could definitely run GameCube. But this is 4K though, so there's no other enhancements. We're not using like there's no texture packs or anything, or any FPS hacks or anything like that. I did have an issue with the turn speed. I always found that was a bit annoying there. But yeah, other than that, Timesplitters is excellent, and generally the performance across the board, 4K. Is pretty nice across the board here. We're not showing you any Nintendo footage because they do get copyright claimed. Bit of an issue with the analog stick here, though. I think that is a bit of an issue, to be honest, with the sort of sensitivity settings. But again, that just can be adjusted in the in-game menu there. So what we'll do is we will go and we will look at some other emulators, particularly PS2, because that really is the breakthrough here is PCSX2, and we'll take a look at the PCSX2 core next. Alright, so this is God of War running on PCSX2. We are running at 1080p. I did try 4K and it just didn't run well at all, to be honest with you. So this is the weird thing about the Xbox Series X, is you can run more PS2 games than the PS5. The PS5 is only compatible with those PS2 games that were ported to the PS4. There was a few of them. I think they had like what was it again? Red Dead Revolver, GTA Vice City, Max Payne, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, which is an underrated game. So yeah, they were all ported. There's a few others as well ported to the PS2. I can't walk straight with Kratos here. We did try 4K, and it does run, but it doesn't run at full speed. It's like 15 FPS at 4K. So 1080p, you're going to have to run this at in order to get this to work. I tried a few other games as well. I tried Persona 4. Again, I played it for about half an hour. It is mostly cutscenes in Persona 4 for the first half hour, but it ran fine. Yeah, Persona 4. No real issues that I had. Timesplitters 1 had no real issues. God of War 2 was a bit more slow down, but otherwise was okay. Again, so PS2, this is kind of an experimental core for Retroarch. I don't know where to go here in God of War. I never really liked God of War, to be honest with you, on the PS2. Never really played it because it came out sort of. I already had an Xbox 360 at the time, and I never really bothered with sort of PS2 games. And I don't think I really ever bothered much with PS2 games. But yeah, you can play decent PS2. 4K is out with most of them. Again, PS2 is a very difficult system to emulate. The Emulation engine was very difficult. It's very different, so it is very CPU intensive. So it is nice to see this is more taxing on that Ryzen, AMD Ryzen Zen 2 architecture. I don't know in developer mode if it lets you have access to all 8 cores and 16 threads. Because again, the Xbox Series X has 2 modes for the CPU that can be used by developers. They can use the SMT, the simultaneous multi-threading, which is capped at 3.5 gigahertz. That allows you 8 cores and 16 threads. Or the developers can disable the SMT and run the CPU as 8 cores and 8 threads. But in backwards compatibility modes, I know that the Xbox Series X, only runs with the 8 cores and 8 threads. Although the clock speed is higher at 3.9 gigahertz. There's no real way of knowing what it's giving you access to. Whether it is allowing the SMT in dev mode, I don't know. Because again, anyone can access dev mode, so I don't know. I don't think it gives you access to like the full system. You don't get access to things like the velocity architecture or anything like that, which is new for the Xbox. You do have to run games off the internal drive, so we are running these games off the internal drive in case you're wondering. I think you can run them off an external drive, but the Retroarch has to copy them over to the internal drive. You just got to remember to allocate some memory to the internal drive. I'm dodge rolling at the wrong time here, aren't I? I really am. But yeah, anyway, quite impressive. I don't have any more footage of any other games, unfortunately, and I'm really bad at hitting the circle button here. It's not good on a wireless controller, so I'm gonna get poor Kratos eaten here. But anyway, we will move on to check out some. Let's move to the previous PlayStation from the PS2, the PS1. Let's try that. Alright, so PS1 emulation, as you would expect, runs pretty well on the PS1. It's pretty good. Again, we're running 4K. We're using DuckStation as the core. That's one of the better PlayStation emulators. It does feature resolution scaling. So this is a PS1 Tony Hawk's Pro Skater running at 4K. I only got footage of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, unfortunately. I did try a few other games. I tried Resident Evil 2, ran okay. Resident Evil 1. Resident Evil 3. Again, all these games have remakes. And I also tried Metal Gear Solid, which also has a remake on the Gamecube. So I did try quite a few games. Metal Gear Solid, I forgot to hit the record button. Metal Gear Solid ran fine, but I didn't record footage. But yeah, DuckStation is pretty good. PlayStation compatibility. There's not really much that stops it here. There's not really much that that's gonna stop PlayStation running here. I did try and I missed the tape. I didn't get down and I missed the secret tape in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater there. Kind of suck at Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Again, it has a remake on the Xbox One and Series consoles. But yeah, it runs fine here. There's no real issues there. He just face planted into the concrete there. Sorry, Tony. I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah, PS1, not really an issue. Well, let's check out Sega Saturn next, because that's a bit of a challenge to emulate. Alright, so let's go check out Burning Rangers. This is running on Yaba Sanshiro core, which is a pretty decent core for the Sega Saturn. It runs quite well in Android. But yeah, we tried Burning Rangers and it kind of crashes quite a lot, to be honest. This is native resolution that you are looking at. You can go up to 4K, but yeah, Burning Rangers crashed quite a few times. I couldn't really get out of the main menu, to be honest. But when we were playing in gameplay, you can see the frame rate was fine. But it is glitchy. I would say you get to in-game, because, you know, so you get in-game, but it's not really playable because it just the crashes. And the second time and the third time I tried it, it crashed at the main menu. The fourth time I got into it, this was the first time playing it, I should point out, and we did get the training level, and I didn't get to complete the training level just because I couldn't play it, unfortunately, so that's a bit of an issue there. Right, so Panzer Dragoon, on the other hand, it runs okay, actually. You're seeing the frame rates in the 30s and the 40s, and it does. This is running at 4K now, so we've scaled the resolution all the way up to 4K. And yeah, Panzer Dragoon had no real issues. I did the first 2 levels in the game and had no crashes. So that works perfectly fine here. So Panzer Dragoon at 4K, there's no real issues. I did try a few other games. I tried Resident Evil 1 again, and it worked fine. But yeah, Panzer Dragoon 2 as well worked. I don't have Panzer Dragoon Saga, unfortunately, so I couldn't try that. Sonic R also worked fine as well, but you know, again, mileage may vary with Yaba Sanshiro. Sega Saturn emulation is a little bit experimental still, although it has made massive strides in the emulation there for Sega Saturn. But definitely, it's impressive to see this running. Again, the NVIDIA Shield had this running as well, but it only runs at native res, so getting it up to 4K is pretty nice, actually. Getting it for 4K resolution here is pretty good. Again, Saturn emulation, it's come a long way, and it's very impressive to see this level, again, of Saturn emulation. It is quite a beast to run. We didn't try games like Guardian Heroes and Radiant Silvergun, because you can already get them. You can get them on they work on the Xbox 360. They were Xbox Live Arcade games, and you can play them on your Xbox Series X in retail mode, so I didn't bother trying any of them. But yeah, Panzer Dragoon works well. Shame about Burning Rangers, because that's one of those Saturn games that you really should play. Burning Rangers is amazing. So was Panzer Dragoon. There is a remake of Panzer Dragoon that was on the PC and the Switch. That we need to check out. Look at those reflections though in Panzer Dragoon. Look at that. They're pretty. I mean, they're really low res and polygonal, but it's quite impressive for, you know, a game that came out in the mid-90s. I think that's quite impressive there that you're seeing the kind of reflections. I mean, they're fairly basic. But yeah, in an era of like ray traced reflections, it's pretty weird and unique to see reflection on a console like this from the 90s, let alone the Sega Saturn, which was a bit of a pain to develop for. But anyway, we'll go and check out the PSP next, shall we? Right, so let's check out PPSSPP there, as that woman gets upset with me in the Ferrari there. So we're looking at Outrun 2006, Coast to Coast, which is a pretty cool PSP game. Again, we're running at 4K. You can see here the frame rate is pretty nice, 60 FPS. There's no real issues with PPSSPP. You can get it as a standalone app as well if you want, or you can run it via RetroArch. It's weird driving past those AMD ads though. We are running on an AMD CPU and the GPU, so you know it's pretty apt there. There you go. It's so easy to impress a woman, I guess, when you've got a Ferrari. I got a B ranking there. That didn't work out too well. But yeah, it's Outrun 2006. Coast to Coast is pretty good. Other games run pretty well, and she was quite pleased with that. Again, it's easy to get a woman to like you again when you're driving a Ferrari, I guess. Although we only got a rank AAA for that one. That was pretty good. But yeah, it runs pretty well on the PSP emulator. We tried a couple other games. Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker was okay. Although I wouldn't recommend playing it on the emulator because you can get it, again, natively on Xbox 360. It was available, and it will play via back compat on your Xbox Series X and S. Again, we should point out this is available on Xbox One as well, dev mode, and Xbox Series S as well there. So you maybe won't get 4K on the Series S, but yeah, you might just get 1080p. I'm really bad at hitting those blue cones, aren't I? She's not impressed. Look at her. Oh, she's impressed now. There you go. C. Oh, I'll go with that. But anyway, yeah, PPSSPP. We tried Persona 4 as well. Persona 4 Golden on the PSP, and it ran fine as well. We also checked out Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, which I do have footage for as well for you. So I didn't gather footage for every game. Just a few footage, just a few minutes of footage. So yeah, this is Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. Again, running at 4K. And again, this is a 30 FPS game with a 30 FPS cap. And it looks really good. I mean, this is outside of gameplay footage that we're looking at there. But this is now the in-game footage that you're looking at. And again, it's pretty nice, actually. Pretty nice looking game. Doesn't look as good as obviously Final Fantasy VII Remake, but then that was a PS4 game, and this is a PSP game. But it's quite good looking. I really like the clean lines of the PSP at 4K. The games look really good. The games look really fantastic. It'd be nice, it'd be interesting to see if we get PS Vita emulation. It is available on the PC, but there's no core for RetroArch. So it'd be interesting to see if it could run the PS Vita, which wasn't as powerful as a PS2. I don't think, but yeah, it is still very impressive here to see it running here on the PSP. PPSSPP, the emulator is called, which I don't know what it stands for. I can't remember what it stands for. It's something PlayStation portable that's perfectly portable emulator. There's a lot of P's and S's in there. So good luck with that. But anyway, everything works just fine with the PSP emulator. And again, 2D games should be fine. If you're looking at Super Nintendo, NES, I haven't bothered recording any footage for them because there's no real issues. And again, they can run on, they can run on just about any device these days that you can get. But yeah, PSP is pretty nice there. We'll check out some arcade emulation, some of the MAME emulators that we've got here. We'll check out them next. Alright, so arcade emulation, it can be a bit tricky. So this is X-Men Arcade from Konami, and it is running on MAME 2003 emulator. In there, again, you will have to be careful with certain arcade games. Not all really compatible. Most of the 2D stuff is pretty good. I did try a few other games. I tried like a few CPS, Capcom Play System games, and they ran fine in MAME. You could get like a Final Burn Alpha as well, and you can get other things. So check compatibility is what I would suggest to you. But other than that, these kind of games ran on the original Xbox. If you ever had a modded original Xbox, you could play things like X-Men Arcade. I was getting hit there, smacking poor Wolverine there. Right in the face with a rock there. That's not good. At least we're Wolverine though, and we've got regenerating health. But yeah, I tried Turtles in Time. I tried The Simpsons Arcade. All ran fine. Maybe if you're trying more intensive arcade games, I never really tried anything 3D like Time Crisis or anything like that. Although those kind of games did run on the original Xbox, there shouldn't really be any issue if you have. Again, you just have to find the right ROM set to get. So there's a bit of issues there with the arcade, but I haven't shown you anything of how to set this up, because there's a lot of guides out there on the internet, on YouTube, how to do dev mode. But overall, I found it was pretty easy to get into dev mode. And I never really had any issues once I got into developer mode there. So yeah, no real issues for me in dev mode there. But it is quite impressive what this can run. We said that in my Xbox Series X review that it was a greatest hits console for the Xbox. It's now a greatest hits console for, for most consoles, arcade machines. It can do things like you can hook up a mouse and keyboard to it as well, and you can do PC emulation. There's also some PC ports around. There's like a Quake 3 port as well, that you can play online. You can play multiplayer, or you can play offline as well. So yeah, pretty good actually. You don't really, any Xbox can be put into developer mode. So you just have to pay for it. And again, there is even a method of playing these kinds of games like N64 arcade, NES, Super Nintendo, and any other sort of 2D games, some 3D games that you can play via the web browser, the Microsoft Edge browser, that was just recently looked at. We are playing them on the cloud. You do have to bear that in mind. That there is a bit of a cloud factor there, so it shouldn't really be much of an issue there. Splinter telling me to get a move on. I'm trying to avoid those beams there. Getting my ass kicked here. Leo's getting his ass kicked. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, overall, the experience is excellent. Again, Retroarch, really good. Again, there is an Xbox port of Retroarch, so you don't have to worry about that. You just go to Retroarch's website when you've got your developer mode all set up. Again, you do have to allocate disk space as well on the SSD. It's easy enough to navigate the SSD as well. To find that, you can do that via just map a network drive on your PC. You will preferably need a PC. I think it can be done on a Mac as well. But you just map a network drive and link your Xbox via network, and it is easy to transfer ROMs. You can do it via external drive, but sometimes it will have to transfer the ROM internally. So there is that as well. Okay, so anyway, yeah, the emulation beast that is the Series X. And that is all for this video, so thank you for joining me. We'll see you again soon, and goodbye.